January.
Okay, so it's right around the corner.
It's around the corner, but we have to
Yeah.
again, what do I do? Do I press buttons?
That's always the question. Bye.
Awesome. I'm going to do an initial introduction interview. Intro, get started, and then I tag off to you.
Listen, you have my, do you need me to share my?
I have a presentation on there, yep.
And then I need to click it, right? Let me know when to do stuff.
You can go.
Do we start the presentation or do we?
You can do an intro, maybe say that we'll wait like 5 minutes for more people to show.
Okay.
Just at least introduce and say hello.
Hi. My name is Charles. Pleasure to meet you guys, everyone online. Thank you for attending the
Talk a
Four
little
Kings
more into
event.
the phone. Talk directly into the microphone.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So I'm gonna probably improvise as I go along. Please flag anyone that's in the chat room in case you can't hear us or if you have any questions. We deal best in interactivity. So the better the questions or the more often the questions come through, the more fun we're gonna have in terms of what you wanna learn and what you wanna kind of discuss. My name is Charles. I'm gonna be one of the speakers today with my cohorts here today. And what we're gonna do is give ourselves about 5-10 more minutes before we officially begin, let people settle in. As you guys know, this is a hybrid event. So we have some people locally who are talking, networking, getting situated with their libations. And then those of you online who are just relaxing a little bit, whatever it is, maybe keep playing that Netflix show that you're watching for a second and then come right back and we'll get started in about 5 to 10 minutes, okay? Thank you. That was good, right? It's okay?
Oh.
I want to bring this up here. It's been like a year and a half since COVID started. So this is like my second, well actually my third outside human interaction. And so you said analytics with what company?
No, a financial systems analyst.
Analytics, yeah.
Yeah, with the healthcare company.
Are you like in the IT umbrella or are you in the operational
I fall under finance technically, but I'm like the bridge between finance and IT.
Yeah, IT. Yeah. That's interesting. And so naturally data science is up your alley in terms of interest. And then eventually machine learning and then deep learning. Awesome. Hi, I'm Charles.
How's it going? Jay, nice to meet you.
Jay? So what finds you here, Jay?
So I haven't been to 4 Weeks Academy before. It's the first time I'm showing up. I'm interested in hearing what it's about and everything. I work at Citrix business operations, so my role is pretty involved in finance, and also I work with a lot of our lead engineers and product managers. So trying to get my foot in when it comes to coding and brush up on some old skills I haven't touched in a while, and kind of dig a little deeper into the AI machine learning.
Awesome.
As well.
Citrix was formerly a client of ours.
Oh,
So I know they're doing a big push into AI now.
Oh yeah, big time. We work pretty closely with the machine learning team, and so I work with them pretty frequently. So
How big is the team? Is it still 30 people or so?
for machine learning, it's about 10. The team that I work with specifically, but the people around the company.
I know that they were trying to do like a mass scale of resources, like engineers over the machine learning.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, that's exciting. And they're changing the model now, right? So they're instead of doing like on-premise solutions, they're trying to do subscription-based solutions.
Yeah, huge SaaS transition right now. So right in the middle of that, and that's where my role comes in, because working with all the cloud providers, getting all of our traditional on-prem solutions into the cloud.
Very painful. Enjoy, have fun.
Yeah, a lot of growing pains, but we've been through it for a while now, so we're getting more mature with it.
Yeah, awesome. How you guys doing?
Yeah. I have pizza and drinks and you guys can sit wherever you like.
Okay, great. Awesome. We actually met Citrix through a previous event that we did with Strata AI, where we started a group called an AI Collective. And the 100% focus was to increase demand around AI in terms of solutions. Because what we find a lot is we have a lot of executive business leaders come around and they bang the table, they want AI. Typically they can't spell it even though it's 2 letters. And then once we start going down the process of conversation, we realize that they're lacking execution power, which is basically talent. And I'll get into the presentation today, but we live in a time where we have good enough models that can predict a lot of things we want. So deployment is easy. Where we suck at is data quality.
Yeah.
And so it's more of a developer problem than it is actually a mathematical problem. And so people are scared because they're like, well, I need some kind of degree in mathematics or some kind of PhD in the sciences. And actually, no.
Yeah, you just need good data. So
Yeah. And patience, because it's a lot of Excel spreadsheets that are not normalized, and it was made really pretty by some intern. No offense. I'm joking. But ultimately, it's just data normalization, cleaning up 80% of the work. Thankfully, there's a lot of, which we will talk about as well. If you guys are familiar with NLP or natural language processing, that's getting very strong in terms of intelligence. So it's pre-cleaned data for you. So and then you can just be a little bit smarter about the business cases.
Hi.
How you doing? Excellent.
Charles, when we're actually doing the event, if somebody from here talks, you should give them the microphone so that the people online can hear too.
Make sure you remind me if you ask a question, because I'll just forget. I'll put it by my side arm in my pocket.
The prototype that will like showcase.
Perfect. So let's just put it at this end. Right? I'm gonna put the peanut butter over here. You want to have it out already, or does it jump out, or is it autonomous? Oh, yeah. Excellent.
Live on his own.
Awesome. Has anyone seen Dune recently?
No,
No.
I have heard it's like the new Star Wars. No?
It's like
Well, that's like too
it's
much.
like the futuristic Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I would
Oh.
say. Has anyone read the book?
It's true.
So I can't make the references now. I'll ruin it for you. I was if all of you guys said yes, I would have done it and probably ruined it for people online. Because I didn't ask them anything.
I also heard that the picture and everything is like amazing.
No, it's a work of art. Well, so that's it. Watch Dune. It was awesome. It's a work of art. But for some people, they're gonna miss, because if you haven't read the book, you're gonna miss a little bit of context. So
Is there like an extension?
an extension. I don't work here, so.
Okay.
Do we have an extension cable?
That we can use to plug in the prototype.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Sorry, I'm just opening up doors. I'm in trouble. Is it just a microcontroller that controls the unit, or is there a microprocessor? That's the controlling unit, no?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Oh, look. Yeah, already had it here.
Oh, yeah, we got it, we're good.
Here's the video, okay.
Okay, we have one
We
here,
have an extension
so.
cable, we're good. What, awesome. So have they heard me this entire time? All
I think that's it.
Okay. right, cool. Like I said, we do better with improvisation and just making it natural. What's up, man?
So thanks.
Okay, cool. Pleasure. Oh, we can do elbow. Is that the other thing?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, that works.
Hey, good on being up.
So once you guys set up, do you guys have any general questions that you want to make sure the conversation heads to?
What's your name?
My name is Charles, or online it's Pseudo. Do you know what that is? No? Okay. Google. Do you guys want to focus a little bit more on the technology conversation? Do you guys want to focus a little bit more on the business application?
Well, can there be a hybrid?
Of course, it could be anything. I'm trying to get a reaction out of you guys. It's like I'm poking you guys to see what you guys say. And if you want, you can get on your phone and ask questions directly through the chat room. That way she can funnel them and they can answer the questions.
Alisa,
Yeah. Alyssa.
how do I share my screen?
You're just gonna Chromecast.
To the big screen. Oh, I think it's actually called big screen or big wall.
what?
Chromecast. It should be like in.
Yeah.
Read out. Cast.
No.
Is anyone working like a retail type of situation, manufacturing? Related? No? Okay.
I can do it HDMI. No.
That's usually how you do it.
What do you guys-
Chromecast. Like, once you're-
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
You do machine learning?
Yes.
So you're actually practitioners in it?
We are co-founder of machine learning consulting group.
Oh, really? What's the name of the company?
Pento.
Pento? Like new or?
It's brand new,
Yeah.
2 years.
And what finds you here?
Business, trying to get.
Yeah, looking to hire?
Eh?
Are you looking to hire?
No, career here now.
You're looking for
Not
clients?
from Uruguay, we're from South America.
Okay,
Yeah, we've been in San Francisco last week.
okay, congrats.
Thank you.
How was the flight?
Long.
I hope the air filters were
Like
working.
16 hours.
Oh, yeah.
From Uruguay, yeah.
That's a
And
that's
then
a
when
fun
we
time.
come from San Francisco to here, it's like 5 hours, but with the time difference, it's like, it feels long.
So you're probably sleeping right now, even though you're conscious.
Yeah. Very fast.
Excellent. So, like, what, bespoke consulting, or you have a solution that you offer up?
We just released a
Yeah,
product
it's true. It's
Okay.
for e-commerce,
Yeah.
image processing.
Image processing, interesting. That's my area of research. So what are you guys doing there?
So we are doing all the post-processing of images.
Okay.
But
But what's the use case? What's the business use case?
So it's this company that have retouchers that do things manually, like put photos.
Oh, like auto Photoshop.
Exactly.
Perfect. Do you have anything that auto labels, like describes us in the picture? Is it
We've
working?
done it in the past, like for clothing.
Yeah, there's a project we're working on where we have to auto-generate marketing, like copy.
Yeah.
On that stuff, and we're doing post processing. And then, I don't know if you know, Televisa, Televisa, the media company.
Oh, yeah.
We have to, the project that we're working on is that we have to back catalog all their old telenovelas so that we can superimpose marketing products inside the scene. So we have to look for tables, we have to look for signs, and then swap out the sign based on what part of Mexico they're playing the video, so that instead of having just ads before the scene and after the scene, like the traditional stuff,
Wow.
they have it inside. And so that's the probably
Now.
Spanish.
Like
Autopilot takes it.
That's pretty cool.
And so the problem is that
There.
right now it's so expensive to process so much video and do it in real time. But eventually it's gonna get to a place where it's cheap
It has
enough
to
where
be
you can
real
do
time.
auto bidding. Because you advertisers are gonna be like, you know what, I want that spot. I'll bid a little bit higher for that spot.
But it's not in real time. It's like after the
Yeah. Yeah, post recording and then superimposing and then
Sorry, that
processing it.
we.
Is the annoying part, and then
When you're set up.
pretty much at the event. I don't know if I can broadcast it, but maybe when we're done, if you guys are interested, I'll show you a project that we're doing for an airport where we're real time watching passengers and we're doing what we call curb to gate traceability. Airports are glorified landlords. They don't know where people are going, but they have to plan for them. So we're using computer vision to track where they go. So you can
And the slides?
line management,
Oh, do I show the
job
slides?
placement, that sort of thing. That's why we're gonna
Well,
show
I
you
have the
detail.
slides on another computer, so
Alright.
only one computer can share the screen at a time.
Okay,
So
no,
when you want to go
that's
to
fine.
slides, let me know and I can put it
Yeah,
back
we
on
start
the
with the
screen.
slides and then we move on to.
Okay, so then I'm gonna have to take over the casting. I'm gonna cast from the other computer.
feel like an area that has a lot to give.
Yeah.
It's not as developed as, I don't know, machine learning, tabular data, or NLP.
Oh, exactly. That's why we're completely focused on computer vision. We think that's that new like gold rush to go after. Tabular data is done. It's almost boring at this point. The problem is that we don't have enough talent. Period.
Yep.
So this is
Yeah,
why we
it's
partnered
very
with 4 Geeks. We need to create more people. So let me know when I begin, and I'll be. I'm gonna assume there's a call back there.
Oh, you want to, yours?
You let me know. I'm the developer that has made that progression to like the business side, just because I'm just more social than most developers. So I'm still like figuring out like the quiet pauses. How do I fill that in?
You can just move in a little bit. There you go. Great.
I do the awkward like slide. Oh, we don't need the mic, right?
Nope, just talk loud.
Awesome. How you guys doing? I'm Charles again. It's a pleasure to see you guys here. And we have a big group over here as well. We're all settled in, so we're going to get started today. I'm going to be the first of 3 presenters today. We're going to be trying to keep the presentations roughly around 10 minutes or so, but we'll play it by ear. The most important part of this is that you guys interact with the content, see what you like, ask those questions ahead of time. We're going to be compiling those questions, and we're going to have a larger discussion towards the end where all 3 presenters will be here. We'll be talking about use cases, practicalities, what business insights to consider, what tools to look for, ways to get started in the space and get working through it. One of the biggest messages that we wanted to share with you in this that we share is that one of the reasons why we do this is not only we love our craft and we want to show some of the things that we've built, but we are in dire need of talent. And in partnership, Strata AI with 4 Geeks, we've made a complete curriculum to teach either new developers or people that don't know how to code yet to actually gain the skills in data science, machine learning, deep learning, and most importantly, AI in production, which is an important aspect of deploying these solutions. So without further ado, let me just begin the process, and then I'm going to hand it off to Gabby from here, and then from there we'll hand it up to the next speaker. Fair enough? All good here? So you guys, I'm going to use you guys as my, am I going good? Is everything okay? For the people online, I'm sorry, I can't see you, so we're just going to assume that you are in line with the audience here. Is it, okay, so the on button starts. Where am I pointing at? So my name is Charles Irizarry. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Strata AI. Strata AI is a consulting-based provider of AI solutions. What we do is we partner with large enterprise organizations, typically about $500 million or higher in revenue, and we focus on ways to either optimize their operations. There you go. It caught up. Optimize operations, increase their revenues, or decrease their costs. We focus on those 3 business cases. We use a variety of tool sets to do that. We analyze either their analytics or tabular data, which is data in a database. We deal with raw or unstructured data, so we come in and we clean that up. Or, for the most part, we love researching around computer vision-based applications. That's basically taking media like video or pictures, processing them for insights, labeling that information, organizing it, and using that for business decisions. And so I will never read off of this. So I'm just going to go through it. We're going to publish the slides online. You're more than welcome to reach out to me with any questions. And I'm going to pre-click stuff because this is a little bit slow.
I'm over here doing.
Okay, perfect. So I already did that introduction, so we can just move along. So these are the 4 areas that we focus on. One of the big challenges that we faced when we first launched Strata AI is as we were developing solutions for our clients, we didn't have enough talent to, or what we refer to as execution power, to deliver those solutions. Especially in situations where we're dealing with manufacturing or a lot of integration systems. We need a requirement not just to have a developer, but we need a developer that was practiced in machine learning to understand how to prepare data, how to set up matrices for those models, how to organize architecture, especially how we move data around the ecosystem, especially in complicated environments where the client may have data stores in certain locations around the world, plus cloud solutions, plus some other implementations, and then you have to architect the data fabric. We just didn't have enough talent to execute that. That's one. And secondly, we needed developers that knew how to work with production systems. It's one thing to play with a model on your computer. It's a whole different thing when you implement it in a cloud architecture. So one of the things that we focus on is accelerated learning. We partnered up with 4 Geeks to deliver an accelerated bootcamp to get people up to spec in that skill set. We also work with organizations in doing talent upskilling. So will work with a large organization, take over the business intelligence team, and we will upskill them into a data science factory so that they can pump out more insights using machine learning. We implement enterprise-grade solutions that are needed. So typically, if you're familiar with SaaS models or subscriptions as a service, we'll develop an AI model that we maintain, we manage, and we license to our clients, and they use it from that perspective. And then lastly, which is my favorite part in all this, is we're very much venture builders. We have a portfolio of clients. We try to find common issues or challenges that each client faces, turn that into a product, and launch it out as its own company. And so that's what we do at Strata Ai. And then next screen. So I'm going to set the foundation of what we're talking about, what this is, get you guys comfortable with understanding a little bit of the terms and how we structure things in our mind in terms of AI. Kind of tell people to stop using AI and let's start talking about machine learning and deep learning and what the solutions are in those different branches of the science. And then I'm going to have two guests come up and give actual real-world use cases of how they're using the technologies to build products and solutions that is really providing value either for individuals or businesses. And so with that said, let's start with the definition of AI, what AI is. And the most important aspect of this is developing a technology that's able to sense, measure, or see the world similar and think similar to a human. That's to help us solve problems. And I'm trying to give you the simplest version of this. It's a very technical version that I can give you. But ultimately, what the solutions of AI or at least machine learning, deep learning give us is the ability for if a person can do it, a machine learning model can do it. But the difference is machine learning models can do it at scale. So a lot of times when I talk to clients, I explain that machine learning or AI is intelligence at scale. What machine learning can't do, which is what humans can do, is that they can switch contexts and models very, very quickly. And so that's always why we're always going to have this relationship between engineers and AI solutions, which is kind of like an augmented intelligence that will exist. And so as it relates to, for example, in my case, we lack a lot of engineers delivering solutions using the models that exist today for business use cases. Does that make sense so far? All good? Excellent. So we're entering the fourth industrial revolution in terms of data. So the second for data revolution, but it's the fourth overall industrial revolution. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen this on the internet before. It's here, it's now. In the next 5 to 10 years, if you're an organization that's not AI enabled, or at least data focused enabled, you will not survive. You need data and you need to be able to process information at such scale so that you can even compete with your competitors who will be using those solutions. One of the reasons why we started Strata AI was that we also wanted to democratize the knowledge of AI. A lot of the larger organizations with larger budgets have money to spend on PhDs, on research, on solutions, and that information is not getting out on a global open source basis. So that's something that we contribute to very much. I'm a contributing developer to many different open source libraries, so are my partners, and we're really excited to share with you some of the use cases and even the technologies we've built. If you look my name up or Strata AI up, you will see that we open source a computer vision model that helps anybody with a webcam or a security camera process that video and figure out whether people are socially distancing or not, whether they're wearing a mask, whether they're family or a couple, whether they have 6 feet apart from them. And that's an available model that you can use today and use and play around with and actually play with the code. So just Google it. It's called the Social Distancing Detector by Strata. Next slide. I'm just going to blow through this because I really want the other presenters to have fun and show off their stuff. This is another thing I like to describe to people to understand when we talk about AI, what do we mean? A lot of times people think when they hear AI, they hear about some kind of sentient being in the box, which is not true. We're nowhere near that. We're not even near a machine that's even aware or as intelligent as a human. Where we are is really at the fetal stage of AI, which largely the most mature area of AI is machine learning. Then there's deep learning. And machine learning is very use case specific, very nuanced, tasked use case specific. So every sci-fi movie you've seen recently or in the last 40 years, we're not there yet. We're on our way, but we're not there yet. We use machine learning for pragmatic business cases that either it's better when we're dealing with a lot of data and we need to process that data, we use machine learning for it. If it's a lot of complex data, very difficult and complex data, and massive amounts, we use deep learning for that. And so what we try to do is kind of dispel this kind of idea of where AI is and realize that AI is more of a series of tools. you're going to probably use one model to calculate fraud amongst transactions. And you're going to use a different model to, for example, and I'm using financial services as an example, you use a different model to help with the process of knowing your customer or investigating your customer to make sure they're a legitimate customer that you want to work with. Two different pragmatic use cases, very narrow focused tasks, two different machine learning models. That's how we use it in a business case. So in any given mature business with several different use cases, they will have running close to 100 different models focusing on different cases that they want processed and driving inside of them. Does that make sense so far? Makes sense? Okay, awesome. Next. So here's where I explained in terms of the overall bubble of AI. Inside, there's a deeper discipline focused on machine learning, which is algorithmic computation of large data sets. And then there's a smaller subset, which is deep learning, which is, again, algorithmic processing of large data sets, but usually they're much more complex data sets. So when I show you guys computer vision-based stuff, we're using deep models for computer vision. Why? We're splicing the video into, if you're familiar with videos, you have like 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second. We splice each individual video. We turn each video's pixel into a separate number. We do there's a lot of processing that has to happen there, and we use neural nets for that. Versus when you're dealing with tabular data, and when I say tabular data, think of a very vast, a large Excel with a bunch of sheets inside, with a bunch of columns inside. It's still difficult for a human to process all that information, especially if the data is in the millions of rows. But a machine learning model can do that very, very quickly to look for patterns, insights, anything that you've trained it to do to find. Does that make sense? Okay. So, show of hands, how many of you are familiar with software development? And you guys don't raise your hands. A little bit, so on and so forth, so on and so forth. And then you guys you have a prototype that's going to jump at me. So, actually, go back one slide. Awesome. So typically in a more traditional software, but when I say traditional, I don't mean like it's old. Like modern day software development, we write code. And so in development, typically you define the data model that you want to work with. This is just good old fashioned database design. You have an understanding of what the business case is, you've done research, you know what data you want to collect, you build a database for those tables, and then you write software logic that handles that data, puts in the data and brings it back and then provides reports. And so typically you don't know what the output is because the user will put inputs, it'll do calculations, it'll get you an output, but you defined how this is going to process things. In machine learning, it's different. You define what you're going to give it, you define what you want out of it, the model will figure out how to structure it. And so typically the first time it does that, it's not very accurate. You have to run a model again, maybe tweak the model a little bit, give it some different data, and you keep giving it rich data until it starts to figure out a pattern that you like. And there's many different models. I don't want to get too nuanced here. But some models are based on reward-based systems. So when the model successfully made a decision that's right, it gets a reward for that. There's other ones that are based on penalty, and there's others that are hybrid. But typically, it's a computational model that's just to figure out what you want me to understand. And the best way for me to get to this output is if I organize things this way. And there's many different approaches. There's supervised, unsupervised, so on and so forth. We can get into that technicality if you have those questions, no problem. I want to get through this presentation and give the mic to the next person. But ultimately, that's the fundamental difference between software development and building out machine learning models in production. Does that make sense? Cool? Nod heads would be like, no, Charles, you're wrong, whatever it is. And so, next slide. Why is this all important? Machine learning has been around for quite a long time. Interesting, what has really brought it back to I would say to its zenith has been breakthroughs in deep learning research. And so deep learning research really broke out the way that things will be processed and introduced concepts around distributed computing and even kind of computational hyperthreading. And because of that, we've been able to process much more information than we ever could before with much more accuracy on that information that we want to get out, whether it's an insight, a decision, a prediction for the most part is typically what you want to do with a machine learning model. And then now, most importantly, not just the prediction you want to generate out of that data, but prescription, meaning now that I know that this is going to happen, what are we going to do about it? What should we do about it? And that kind of insight is what we give business leaders so they can make better decisions. Point in fact, one of the best data science or AI companies that we have available isn't just the ones that you know of, like Google or Facebook, but it's actually Airbnb. Airbnb is a data first model. Any decision they make, there's a data scientist in the room to help make that decision. That's actually a requirement of the organization. They do a lot of what we call demand sensing or demand planning, which is basically taking in all kinds of different open source data, weather, events, traffic, gas prices, rental rates, if there's a natural event occurring, and they predict the demand of a certain area to figure out what's the best pricing, what's the best marketing strategy, and input directly that into, let's say, digital ad spend, for example. It's actually a fantastic way to manage their pipeline, so they know where to focus their resources. In other cases, we have a client of ours who's one of the largest cement distributors in the world. They make cement, they sell cement. But cement is a funny problem in the sense that you have about 4 hours before it dries out. So their biggest challenge is what truck should be where and delivering what cement to what project. And so we actually had to adopt a white paper called the dance of the 28-ton truck on how to move cement around without it drying on the truck, but also we're maximizing the amount of money that we're making in that truck. That's another way of using machine learning to do predictive analysis and routing of traffic patterns. And so deep learning really kind of unlocked the business opportunity in terms of how we could provide value and help organizations grow more effectively, more efficiently. Next slide. These are just ideas of use cases that get implemented. I think I spoke to a little bit about them. I made the joke about the autonomous device that you guys popped out because I was like, is it going to jump out at me and say high five? I wouldn't be surprised. But ultimately, you've been using AI for a while now. If you guys have phones and you guys type stuff and it autocorrects, that's AI. It's actually NLP specifically, and what it's doing is not only analyzing what word you think you said, but it has been analyzing you for quite a while since you've been using that device. So it knows your speaking patterns, it knows a little bit of your slang, it knows a little bit about what words you're using to use over others, and it offers those items for you. I'm gonna skip this for now because we're gonna go through the presentations now, and then I think I have one last slide, or actually 2 more slides, and then we're done. So these numbers are actually higher now. This was based on the Grandview research from 2020, and Gartner's 2018. I think they've updated it already, and I think the amount is probably like 4 times this now. But one of the biggest areas, and which is why I explained how I introduced Strata AI, we focus in 3 business areas: revenue optimization, or increasing revenue, decreasing cost, or increasing efficiencies in the organizations. That's what's providing the value for the companies. At the end of the day, what companies don't necessarily need is just an AI solution for the sake of an AI solution. They need it to provide an ROI specifically. And typically, machine learning models provide the best ROI because they allow the humans to scale in certain ways, specifically around very highly intellectual tasks like decision making. What's the best decision at a time, especially in a situation where thousands of decisions have to be made? And so with that said, my favorite line is really here, where in 2021, artificial intelligence, so that's this year, we're finishing it up now, artificial intelligence augmentation will create $2.9 trillion in business value and save about $6.2 billion in labor effort and worker productivity. That's only going to get bigger, because now between the solutions, the workforce growing and maturing in that respect, that value is only going to compound. So in reality, this is just a predicted endpoint to value for this year, but that's an exponentially growing value. I think that's the most important thing for people to understand. I know that most people, including myself, are super excited about blockchain. I have my NFT too. I love my little punk. I'm very excited about IoT. I'm very excited about other different branches of technology. But in terms of real wealth generation, in terms of real future progress, AI is really what's going to take us to the next level. And to the point, most financial institutions, if not all, are completely placing their bets in AI-enabled companies in terms of investments, acquisitions, and further growth. And then last slide, I just wanted to kind of quickly depict the areas in which, or highlight the top challenges organizations have to even adopt AI. And the very first one is there's just not enough skill set to actually deliver that. And one of the big problems is not just having that skill set, but also having institutional knowledge of that company to understand how to best service and help that company. Second, which we're going to go through today, and this is why we're having this presentation, is just understanding it. How to use it, when to use it, how to have the conversation around it. And then ultimately, which to me, in my personal opinion, is probably more important. Maybe because I do it all day, every day. Excuse me. Is data quality is a big challenge. Thankfully, in terms of overall machine learning, open source maturity and quality, we're at a place where most of the models that we use are actually pretty effective. They do give really good results when they process the data. So what we're focusing on now is actually better data quality. One thing you'll find, and you'll probably hear from us as we say it, garbage in is garbage out. So you typically want to give high quality labeled data to your AI models so that they can produce better results in terms of whether it's a prediction, a prescription, or a decision that it's trying to make. And so there's not enough value necessarily to dig deep down in the models and try to optimize it mathematically. It's actually much more effective use of your time and much more valuable if you focus on the quality of data. And what that means is a little bit more of a slant to the software side, where you're doing better integrations into IoT devices and deploying much more IoT devices to sense the world, whether you're manufacturing or retail. Doing better in terms of how you aggregate and normalize data if you're in a financial institution. You want to normalize data so that you can query it across the enterprise. So lots of investments in data fabrics or proper strategies around data lakes, for example. And in the case of like Tesla, they're very much focused on edge computing. So they're doing a better job of doing edge-based computational algorithmic work, increasing the inputs of that quality, and then bringing that to a central model that does an additional computational process on that data. And so with that said, what I'm going to do is now introduce Gabby so that she can talk a little bit about who she is, what she does, and what she's working on. Then we're going to introduce the next speaker, and at the end of the three presentations, we're going to sit down, hang out a little bit, and actually answer any and all questions that you guys have. Okay? Does that make sense? Did I go too fast? Slow? Did I take too long? Okay, we're good. With that said, Gabby, you're up.
All right, cool. So I am Gabby, as Charles so kindly said. I work with the Data Science Salon. I lead up growth over there. For all of you at home, I hope you've heard of us. If not, you have now. Same for you in this room. But basically, this slide was really out of order. You're good though. So this is going to come up later on. But basically what we are, let me actually see a show of hands here who all has heard of us.
That's cool.
Okay, actually that's a lot more than I thought. We're good then. So basically what we do, we are more on the people side of things. So we obviously try to take you that are experts in this field and connect you with other like-minded individuals so you can discuss your products, see new products, and just kind of like overall see the growth trajectory of what's going to happen. To echo Charles's earlier point, one of my favorite things that I've seen recently is don't fear AI, as it's going to lead to long-term job growth. The reason why that's important as we deal with data scientists, ML experts, AI experts, all of you wonderful folks, is that requires more data, more maintenance, and just really overall learning how to take better care of things. So obviously that's going to lead to job growth and future opportunities. Can you click next to that and see where it goes? Okay, we're like halfway through. Keep going. Okay, let me show you real quick. All right, cool. This is a quick video about who we are, and then we'll jump in. So basically these are, this is actually an event I believe we had down here in Miami, obviously pre-pandemic. Things looked a lot different. We'll discuss kind of how the future looks as well. But like I said, we just wanted to go ahead and put people together. You can discuss obviously the work you're doing and where you see things going with that. And while we're more obviously on the business and people side versus super technical, we don't necessarily have a product. We have that community there for you. So that's why obviously we partner with 4Ds and places like that. So as you advance and take on roles and things like that, then you can join our community and, really move on from there. Perfect. And then you will see on the next slide, the Data Science Salon is brought to you by Formulated By. We are basically the business behind the Data Science Salon, and we are formulating our place in the data community. And then jumping forward one more, we'll take a super quick overview at the agenda. And basically with this, we are going to look through basically who the Data Science Salon is. I know we did a really brief preview of that, what gaps exist and what DSS is doing, what DSS is trying to provide for the community, and then what the future looks like as well. So we'll go ahead and move forward for the first one, which is who the Data Science Salon is. So we did start nearly 5 years ago. We do have a birthday coming up next month. And we are really the only industry community that's focused on AI and machine learning applications in different verticals. So we have things like media, entertainment, advertising, technology, finance, healthcare, retail, e-com, basically you name it. We try to create these micro communities in different places across the globe and now on a virtual basis as well. Most importantly, one of those is here in Miami. Why do I say that? Because of all the growth that's happening here. We were founded in San Francisco. We are headquartered here now to try and drive that growth even more. And we are a rapidly growing community. We do have over 55,000 folks like you that are part of our community. And like I said, it's growing each and every day. We still try to provide a very intimate space though, so where we can connect you with products and information that's necessary to obviously grow in your role. And then you can create that network of individuals so you can go ahead and learn them, them, and then obviously progress to advancements and things like that. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So the fun part here is, what gaps exist and what we're trying to do to obviously combat that. So you'll see these statistics here via DSSE that basically 85% of data scientists and 74% of predictive analysts are male. No offense to my men in the room. We just try to basically create a community that is diverse and inclusive. And while data science is obviously still young, and this goes for really, AI, ML, very much everything, we are trying to basically make it so that all voices are heard, and then that data is basically derived from everyone, so we don't want there to be bias or anything like that. So we try to obviously create that environment for you. And then on the next slide. Perfect. Looking just a bit further at that, we have Amrita Nat, who is a senior economist at Econ One Research, and she has said by elevating women and other underrepresented groups, we have the opportunity to build a truly incredible and thriving field that influences decision-making at every level in a meaningful way. So what does that really mean? It's all about creating inclusivity. We try to, no matter what, if it's the product we're showcasing, the speakers that we have who we're connecting you with for mentorship or things like that, we try to make sure that obviously, they are the right people for you that will help you progress. All right, we can go ahead and hop to the next one. Perfect. So taking a quick look at what we do for the community. So you'll see a quote here from Manasi Bartek, who is the founder and CEO of Verta. I'll save you the time, I know you can read. But basically, the point of it is we try to create this networking environment for you where you can meet these people, you'll learn from them, you'll really see what's going on. And at the end of the day, too, we want to put different companies and products and things like that in your workspace so that you're able to then take those, utilize those, and potentially obviously grow in what you're doing and learn a lot more from that. So the goal is to obviously connect you with other folks that are in the field and other like-minded individuals. So we do that through that hyper-local and targeted approach to make sure that their conversation that's happening is relevant to the industry that's here and now, and then kind of what the future looks like as well. And then we'll take a quick look more on the next slide. So just looking a bit deeper, obviously we want to make the community as informative and useful as possible. So how do we do that really? Well, we try to keep it in a casual and relaxed type of approach. You know, these small intimate settings where you have the chance to really kind of chat with each other. You can go ahead and, you know, mingle and really get to know each other and, you know, learn about what this cool thing is that is beside me. Like you get the opportunity to actually do that and kind of see the work that everyone's accomplishing. So we try to do that through obviously high quality content and then through networking, like I said, as well. And then we'll hop into the last agenda point, which is what the future looks like. So, like I said, our business is on the people side. Obviously, we try to connect all of you experts in the tech field with one another, and we try to do that now, obviously, post-pandemic, digitally and face-to-face. So that's our new format, just like we're doing tonight. It's really this. The future looks hybrid, which is pretty cool, I'm going to say, because then we can, you know, have our events in a really happening place, but with remote work now, someone could be over in, let's say, LA or something like that, but they're still able to attend. So we try to do that through all of our spin-offs, obviously the Data Science Salon series, all of our content creation, and most importantly, you know, the mentorship and recruitment. We have a lot of folks that we help advance onto new roles, obviously, within these fields, and then obviously they connect with mentors as well. So then we'll hop over to the next slide. This is, like I said, to start. So we do have our next hybrid event coming up in February. I do definitely hope that you all will be there. We are headquartered in the Design District. It will happen in the Design District on February 16th. And that one is going to be AI and ML in the enterprise. So it is going to be a little bit more broad than the original vertical approach, just because there is so much happening here in Miami that's more than just, you know, let's say travel or something like that. Next slide, please. And then this is going to be about DSS Insider. You might just have to click it again. Thank you. This is where, and there should be the code on each of these in case you do want to scan it. You can learn about more of the content and everything that we do have available. It is, or you're able to join it, and then you'll have access to that community as well. We have a whole network there. Basically, everything that's happened in the past, you'll be able to find it on there. And then the next slide. And you can click it once more. This is what I was saying earlier, just to echo my point with DSS Elevate. It is just a specific vertical we have. Again, it is not gender specific or anything like that. That's just what we focus on. It's creating that diversity. And we do welcome everyone to attend. It's always great to see folks there. And then next slide. And click it once more. And then Slack, of course, I do definitely hope, I know some of you may already be on there, but we do hope to have you on there. That's where we, you know, share things. We share a lot of content, what's going on, different things that are happening. So the conversation's always over there. We hope you can just add it to your workspace and check it out whenever you can. And then the next slide. And then same for these, our meetup groups. We do have 3 that are local down here in Miami. So we do always welcome you to join, see when we're doing things. Again, it'll probably always look hybrid. But we hope to definitely see some faces there and get the conversation happening and going again. And then on the last slide, I know many of you, some of you in this room have spoke with us many times. But we do definitely always apply or want folks to apply to come speak with us. Obviously, as you advance in your career, we want to hear what you're doing and have you present that to others. The more technical the talk, the better. We do love it. So definitely, we encourage you to do that. But basically, to sum it up, you know, the field is growing. Like I said, we are going to be turning 5, and I definitely encourage you to follow along. We're going to take a look back at what in, you know, the field has changed in the past 5 years, and then also kind of look at the predictions for the future, different jobs, the growth analysis, everything like that. So it's definitely cool, and we'll be taking a look at that over the next month. So I encourage you to kind of follow along with that.
Awesome. Go. Yeah, perfect. And it'll be easy to make sure to do.
Oh,
Say hi. I think you can leave.
Do you want me to use the mic or?
Oh, we're
Do
gonna
you-
do the presentation.
Yeah, you. So this one is not working completely, or?
That's that clicker. I don't know if it's working. Oh, there was like a lag, I noticed.
No, good.
Try it out. Okay.
All right. So I'm. Say it again.
You went up the middle.
Oh yeah. So obviously this device does not work, but it's figure out how to do that. So my name is Stan. I'm a data scientist for Lufthansa Industry Solutions, and I assume most of you and most of people who are watching, they inspire a career in data science. Is that correct? So you're in a process of becoming a data scientist, data engineer, which is good because the industry, and it doesn't matter which industry, you definitely will be highly wealthy. And we are looking for data centers throughout all industry, whether it's consulting business, whether it's schools, retail. I do not know any company which is not hiring data centers, right? And trust me, you would agree with that. Right. I'm in the data science business now for about 10 years. I've worked with many data scientists in the field from all over the world, whether it was in Germany, so I was originally based in Germany, and I was in the United States, and remotely from all over the world. And I've learned from all data scientists something, whether it's how to do things or whether it's how not to do things. I can tell you the most fun I had to work with data scientists, they all had two skills, two kind of features, right, which they were able to combine. And those kind of features also made those data scientists very special. Right? Like, not only good data scientists, but really good data scientists. The first feature is a good understanding of data, right? Being able to work with data. You need to be able to code for that. There's no question. Whether you use Python, R, Strata, whatever you like. Right? Python is obviously whatever you like. You need to like. It's not just coding. Right? It's not just tool. You need to like watching the data sometimes for days. And everybody who works with data, they know sometimes you need to. You have some pain to work, right? And you need to be able to do it. The second skill is more on the business side. It's more on creativity. It's more on how are you able to translate a problem, a business problem, to a data science problem. And this is not an easy task, right? We all tell, and if you read open positions, it's always required, right? But only a few data scientists, not a few, I don't know how many, but not all data scientists. But those who have this skill, those who have this kind of feature in it, they do great stuff. And they understand, they combine business and data science. And those are the data scientists who will found to work. I will present you a use case today, so it's not about what data science is about, but I will present you a use case, a real life use case from, it's actually 2017 use case. It was actually the first use case I presented at the data science salon I think it was in Austin, which is a very fun event. Before that, I will tell you a little bit about Lufthansa Industry Solutions and what we do and who we are, so you have a kind of a better understanding on what we basically do. We need to go on the next slide, please.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. We're an IT consulting company, supporting our clients in all IT issues and questions, starting from the very beginning, where the idea is formed and shaped, over doing a proof of concepts, doing testing, doing development, implementation. We're a system integrator, so we do not only develop, but we also integrate existing systems, whether it's Salesforce, whether it's Tableau, whether it's you name it. And then we do a classification. No, it works. We are around 2,100 consultants, IT experts in different fields, whether it's SAP, data science, data engineering, software development, front end, security is a big topic for us. We are on the market since 1995. Headquarters is in Germany, in Frankfurt, and in Hamburg. We have 14 locations. One of them is here in the United States. Here in Florida, we're in Wicker, which is about 5 minutes drive. In the evening hours, it's 30 minutes drive this one. Sorry about that. So we are based here in Florida in Wicker, and basically support clients all over the United States. Most of our clients are in the groups, business, retail, and some other industries. Data science and the data analytics, we basically have 3 fields of consulting area, which is data strategy, how to use data, how to make something of data, which is a fun part, but also the most difficult part, because this is, you need to convince people that there is insight, there is a value in the data. We do development, data architecture, data lakes, cloud server, whatever is the first step in any data science role, and we of course do those kind of models and apply them. Some of our clients, mostly big names here in Europe and the United States. Right? That's about marketing. Let's have a look on the use case. The use case I want to talk about is a condition-based maintenance use case. Right? You all heard the term predictive maintenance. So this is a use case about, this is where companies want to build any kind of predictive model to detect, to predict failures in their machinery. And the business usage out of this is to reduce downtime. That's a whole point. And the use case we did here, said it was about 2017, was for a company who were operating escalators. You know, those wooden chairs. And they had a question, or they reached out to us and asked, we want you to build a database model, whether it's condition-based or predictive maintenance, to predict failures in escalators. Because in Germany, if an escalator isn't working, there is a fine for not working escalator. Because people with disabilities need to be able to move up and down, and it's not working. So they needed to have a model which would predict failure in about 12 to 24 hours, so a maintenance team can go out and check. And as usual in business cases, there are some requirements. So you need to, it's not like you start and can do whatever you want. Right? This is what you can do on paper. Right? In a business case, there are some requirements. And one of those requirements were, we were not allowed to change the machinery. Right? We were not allowed to add expensive stuff in the machinery. Right? And no change, right? So the machinery should stay as it is. No Wi-Fi and no data science. And not planned data science. Right? So now, this is where data scientists start to work. What do we do? What is the solution? You do not know, right? You try something, you fail. You try something, you fail. And this was the approach, right? There is no solution on the market. So after a couple of trial and fails, we figured out and we went with an audio sensor, with a Raspberry Pi, and an isolation box. And I will talk a little bit about all those devices. So, and let's start with the model first. Let's start with the isolation box. If you have worked with a condition-based maintenance case or predictive maintenance case, you know it's about anomaly detection. And the common approach in anomaly detection is to calculate the profile from a normal data. And then if you run the model, it basically, based on this profile, it identifies whether this is normal or abnormal. And this requires a lot of computer power, because every time it compares with a normal profile. And computer power, you can have either through a huge server inside, which we're not allowed to do, or you need cloud to scale. Again, we're not. So the solution in this case was isolation forest. Isolation forest is an algorithm which basically reverses the whole object. It says, I'm not looking for the normal profile. I'm not identifying that normal profile, but I'm identifying right away the abnormal profile by calculating trees. And basically what it does after training is the shortest way is an anomaly. Right? If there are no points around a particular data point, it should be an anomaly. Right? It's not so accurate as the other approach, but the huge benefit on isolation force, it almost does not need, it doesn't need to be a power. You can run it on Raspberry Pi. Because it goes the other way, because it directly identifies them. So, was published in 2008 by those colleagues over here, and basically, on the common approach, right, you would try to identify each point, and on the isolation force, it goes directly to the anomaly. It says, hey, for this probability, this is anomaly. And because of that, you save a lot of computer power. We decided to use audio data because audio data is a very thankful thing. It's easy to capture, right? You simply need a microphone, which you can buy for 50 cents on Amazon, and it's easy to install. And the data which comes in is very stable. It comes in with 168 data points a second. And we calculated a couple of features from this data point. And after some feature engineering, we figured out that those 5 features, I would not be able to explain you what they really measure. But there is a clear way how you can calculate those 5 parameters and so on like this. And based on those 5 features, we were able to predict it very well. So 5 features were also enough to be handled by a Raspberry Pi. Right? And the setup, whether here in the prototype or in the actual business case, is very simple. You have machinery, can be any kind of machinery. Right? The only requirement is that the machinery does noise. It does have any kind of audio environment. Right? So this is a requirement. We have a microphone, then it's analyzed on a Raspberry Pi, where the isolation force is installed and can be trained. And then it goes into the anomaly detector. And this is what I would like to show you, but for that reason I need to switch to my laptop. And I'm not sure. Just out. It's still running. So basically, what we maybe can move a little bit. Oh yeah. Right. So basically, what you can see here. What you can see here is a prototype built by my colleagues in Germany, and what it's supposed to imitate is machinery. So here in this case, there is a ventilator inside, and I would need a piece of paper. Can you give me a piece of paper? There's a machinery. Oh, I will destroy it. It's fine. Okay. There's a machinery inside, right? A ventilator, which basically simulates any kind of machinery, like a motor or something. We have over here a Raspberry Pi. We have here a small generator, which does electricity and gives the power to the Raspberry Pi, and the isolation force is installed over here on the Raspberry Pi. So the Raspberry Pi, if you later on have a look on this, has a little bit more power than the very basic Raspberry Pi, because we also run several other use cases like temperature. But you can run this use case on a basic Raspberry Pi in 5 or 6 hours. And basically, how the solution or how this works is we have we start a training, which is right now live. It's on my Mac, and this is also how it works in any case. You install this solution on any machinery, and you let the model train for a couple of minutes. So we say if the audio environment where the machinery is very stable, let's train it for 2 minutes. If the audio environment is not very stable, let's train it for 5 minutes. And so this is the time requirement for training. What happens in this time is that the model identifies what is the normal state. Right? So what do I not consider as an anomaly? And after the training, and let us see if this was enough. I usually train the model a little bit early. So we cannot wait till the machinery fails, right? So we go on the prediction mode. So on the prediction mode, it basically now says what is normal and what is not. Right? And let me simulate a failure in the machine. can only simulate this because it was built by German engineers. It will not fail anytime. So let me see. Here we go. So basically now we will simulate a fail, right? If you think about an escalator, it can be like a penny or any device in the escalator. Let's see what happens. Oh. You see? So we train it for what? 20 seconds, 30 seconds? And this is the same model now, which already identifies the noise which is an anomaly, right? So anything which is red is not normal. It's considered as not normal. And then you build in business rules and say, how long do you want to have the not normal signal? How strong do you want to have it? Sometimes if you think about an escalator, a ride can be like 20 seconds. Right? So if a kid is jumping on an escalator, it will consider it as not normal. So we say everything what is longer than 20 seconds is detected. Right? To be sure, let's go for 30 seconds as a business rule. Everything what is longer, not normal than for 30 seconds, then you send out a notification to a maintenance team. It comes in and checks it. It does not tell you what is what, right? This is the disadvantage of unsupervised learning. It does not tell you that this particular piece is wrong or that particular piece. It just tells you that something is wrong. What is wrong then can be figured out and maintained by the humans. But it gives you the opportunity to detect failures early and to avoid any downtime. And as you can imagine, this is a use case which is applied not only on escalators, right? On any machine, right? And because it is so easy to train, and you don't need a data science. You install it, you press a button, it trains, that's it, and it runs. Let me go back on the slides. Just stop it over here. So basically, what happened was after installation, they reduced the downtimes of the machines. I'm not sure if I have it on the slides. It's on the next slide. Oh. They reduced the downtimes. I think by 40%, just by installing such a solution. So you do not reduce failures, right? You just reduce the downtimes, and this is important. We do not reduce costs for maintenance. We reduce disadvantage. So if you think about an elevator, if you think about a production site which loses money any minute the machine is deployed. And that's what the solution does. And this is a very typical use case in the condition in the maintenance case. Right? So in maintenance and predictive maintenance, you will quite often work with sensor data. Right? You will not work with behavioral data. You will not work with computer vision. That is mostly sensor data, which is quite painful because data is stable. Right? It's not changing. You do not have different attitudes, whether it's winter or summer. Right? It just goes through and you control for temperature. That's it. So, and in predictive maintenance, you usually will have those kinds of anomaly. And there are different ways how you can do this. If you have computer power, go for the powerful models. If you don't have the computer power, isolation process is one approach where you kind of can go down the limits of the computer power. This is a use case. This is me, and you can contact me for any questions. And this is something that I would like to promote. We organize a hackathon already next week, and ask people, data community here in South Florida to join. It's will happen in our office in Brickell. We are on 800 Brickell Avenue. It will be a full day event. We will provide data for pricing data from different cruise lines, which is of course also a little bit biased. We change the data a little bit, so we cannot provide the real data, but you will not be able to identify whether this is this company or the other company. We will provide data and ask about 3 teams to build the best model to predict what is my optimal price. What is my optimal price in comparison to many other parameters we have in our data storage. And at 6 p.m., several VPs and SCPs from Cruiseline will come in and evaluate what we have done. You know? So, teams will pitch, and we have for the first winner we have a nice prize, and the second one the team will also. So join us. You can apply at this link, and I think the slides will be shared, right? So find any time, and yeah, hopefully to see you there. That's it.
Also, adding to the standard invitation for the hackathon, it's very easy to apply. Scan the QR code you see there, apply in Teams, with your colleagues, peers, and pretty straightforward. You just fill out the form. It's nothing complicated, and you just put up your background, your skills, and that's about it. And just have fun. That's it.
So we're going to be sharing the slides around for those who want to participate or reach out to Gabby, to the team here and do the hackathon. Reach out to me if you have any questions. There was a second backlog here of conversation where once when these slides get shared out to you guys, it'll be an easy way to apply it and kind of get involved in the data and the hackathon. And with that said, I think we're going to start kind of queuing up questions. Start kind of conversations. I want to bring you up. I'll bring Gabby back up. I don't know if we have enough chairs up here, so I guess we'll just stand around and it's lighted by the sun that's in our faces. So I was going to ask if you guys were using Raspberry Pi, but I didn't want to be like I didn't want to start nerding out. So I was going to ask if you guys are using a Raspberry Pi or a microcontroller.
No,
when I first, and I was like, but then I looked around. I was like, that's not an enclosure I've seen before. So did you guys custom make the enclosures yourself?
No, but we have a partner who do.
Okay, so they because.
It's not. This is that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
So it's not something that you can buy
Thank you.
easily on the internet.
For sure.
But the model runs on the very basic Raspberry.
Awesome. And the reason why is I saw the ports and I'm like, that looks like a Raspberry Pi, but I don't want to like say.
Yeah, you
wrong.
can add like add temperature and humidity and.
Awesome. So to be comfortable, I'm gonna ask you guys to sit down. I'm gonna be behind a cool desk here, and so. First and foremost, you guys found this informative, made sense, you guys are able to follow along, great, awesome. So I'll start with you guys before anything, but I have some preceded questions so I can fill up the air while you guys think about what you want to ask. Do you guys have any immediate questions right now? You guys take advantage because you guys are right here in front of us. But any questions, thoughts, anomalies, or even a good dad joke? No? All right, I have a good dad joke, so let's start
I have
there.
a question.
Oh, you have a question? Great.
Yeah, and I think you touched a little bit on it, which is like the skills that someone needs to go from data analytics, but also navigate the space of business, which is that creativity of understanding the business challenge and having the creativity in order to transform it into a data model.
Right.
What other skills that now in the time of humanics do you see that are important for those students or talent that is developing that are focusing maybe too technical, but then what other skills do they need to develop in order to be able to navigate those two areas?
On the technical side or more on the like a personal side?
Both.
I would say on the technical side, you at some point in time in the data science career, you need to make a decision where you want to focus on or what you want to focus on. Right? You cannot be a generalist and so you need to have a kind of a focus, whether it's NLP, whether it's computer vision, whether it's kind of basic predictive analytics. Now, I mean, we say it's basic, right? Because we are already in business for a couple of years, and we know, predictions are done by many companies. But it's still a challenge for many big companies, for many companies who were founded, I would say, before 2000. And so if you talk about companies who were founded before the 90s, they still have those challenges. And I would recommend every data scientist to join the community, to work for about 2 to 3 years, try out things in different areas and see what you like. And if it's computer vision, go for it. Focus on it. Be the specialist. If it's NLP, be the specialist in NLP. Be the person to go to where people can trust your understanding of knowledge. Right? If you're a generalist, of course, it's also important to know everything from everything. But I think it's in the beginning. So that's on the technical side. On the personal side, never lose your creativity. I think coding is very structured, right? But it doesn't matter what your coding focus is. Coding is very structured in the sense that
Logical.
exactly, and translating the problem from business to outcome is a very creative process. So I don't know what the best approach is. I learned for myself that never code and do the translation in one day. If you code today, code today. If you do the creativity part, do the creativity part. I kind of divide it because our brain is not designed for jumping around between logical and so that would be like on my side. That's what I would say about most data science. So kind of do not lose the creativity. So it's after a couple of years in that business, you will certainly be but there's also very interesting stuff happening left and right.
And Gabby, being focused on the people side of all this, what's your perspective?
Definitely to echo your point of finding the focus, because that is the thing we see the most in terms of talks, is especially for like folks that are in NLP, they learn they like that very early on and stuck to that, and then become an expert in that field, and then are able to obviously progress and be successful in that.
Yeah, I agree. Some color I would add is I'll start from the person side and then I'll go on to the technology side. Person side, it really pays dividends to have social skills. So focus on that and make sure you play well with others and collaborate and work to a solution. So that would be one aspect. But to give a anecdotal kind of experience that I've had with large organizations, not exactly dynamic pricing, but we were focusing on doing demand sensing or demand planning for a very famous topsoil fertilizer company. And so they had lots of data from different places. And so the biggest challenge for them wasn't just adopting the machine learning model that we were putting in place, or the predictive model we put in place, but that triggered a series of events throughout their organization to do digital transformation. So to everyone's point here is that you do have to have a sense of the world of technology, but you have to understand that you're going to be good at one thing, other people are going to be good at other things, and then you need to collaborate with those other people. And a lot of times when you're talking about this very kind of edge type of technology, especially when you're talking about the deeper models like what he's working on and what we're working on, you're gonna cause effects and changes. And I think a lot of people like to look at technology and be like, oh man, it's the type of language you use or the type of database you use. It's actually not. It's people actually is both the blessing and the curse that is technology. Because people make technology and it's buggy. People use technology and they find bugs. But ultimately, it's people who design the systems and design the processes and implement those solutions. And so I would say that the most important thing is that you got to be really good at playing in the sandbox with others. And then understand that a lot of times technology is not necessarily technology, but change management in disguise in reality. That make sense?
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions here? So I'm going to start with Gabby. What brought you into the space of data science? What attracted to you? Words a thing? People. Why did you get attracted to it?
Definitely as I saw the trends of what was happening in the future. So obviously sales background. With that, a lot of it became like chatbots, for example, you know, and the AI behind them. And then it was finding the ROI that those chatbots bring. It was like, oh, okay, this is obviously like an ever-growing going to become more prominent in the future. So then I ended up moving to Miami and found that it was obviously a huge happening thing down here, and ended up finding and running across Anna and obviously what she does with the community, and wound up there and I've loved it ever since. I mean, it's ever changing. Awesome. You never know what it's going to be.
And there's no shame for coming from sales. A joke I tell developers is there's two roles in this company. You're either sales or sales support. Yeah. So pick your role and support the business. And what attracted you to data science?
In fact, I think from the day I started, bachelor, going to bachelor degree and start coding and realized from the day on my, I still remember like statistics and they kind of gave us a data set of all students with, without names, of course, we had no idea who they were, but we had their exams, and we had several other statistics, how often they were in school, how often they were in the library, and whatever you could track with them. And we could very easily predict the grade of the student. And I was so fascinated by that. I kind of looked in a crystal ball, and it was 2006, 2007. I mean, no big data, no Python.
People were still trying to figure out what cloud was.
No, cloud was. No, so
Stories to tell you.
I was so much fascinated by that, and in step you kind of learn on what else you can do, right? The different prizes, and then you also see the value for yourself, right? Where you can understand, yeah, I'm not going to pay this because I know that's not the value of that. And then going through, I was working for a bank in financial industry for credit risk scoring, which was fun and not fun at the same time. And it actually never stopped. I think that's what I said, and that's what I kind of promote. You really need to like work with. It's not always fun. Sometimes you sit for days and nights in front of your data, and you try to aggregate or disaggregate it. You try to figure out things, and then at some point in time, maybe usually you will agree it's at 3 a.m. and then you get up and start coding and start do whatever you need to do, and then you figure out and this feeling is fantastic. Maybe you also have it in other things. I haven't experienced it, but I guess this is what drives me.
I agree with the feeling, but it doesn't happen at 3 a.m. for me. It happens typically in the shower. I'll be like, that's
yeah.
And then it typically happens with bugs, where I'm like, where's the memory leak happen? And then you realize the query you wrote, and you're like, oh man, I need to go fix that.
Maybe because you're writing the code at 3 a.m.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Maybe that was the cause of the issue. Awesome.
Right.
And so has been the and I'm basically gonna yo-yo, start with you and go back. And so you're working with an IT services and consulting company, but you're the head of data and analytics and science, and they come to you with probably all kinds of questions and problems and what can be done. What has been the most surprising either problem that you have been asked to solve for or solution you've seen implemented?
I think I would rather go with the solution, and maybe this is the most recent one. And I'm a big fan of computer vision analytics. I think this is really a powerful tool where you can do so much, and we use maybe 1% of this right now. Right? This is really powerful, and one of the solutions I've seen recently, that's actually something that we also do, is ghosting. Ghosting is where you have either security or any kind of camera, and the solution basically ghosts you as a person. Right? So the benefit out of this from the European perspective, where you have very strict GDPR rules, is people who use this, they have no idea who you are. Like your personal rights are completely protected from the point where the camera sees your ghost. And I was surprised how well it works. It's not a solution which we did, right? We partnered with the company, but I was like, yeah, sorry, but because it covers everything, right? You have no idea male, female, age, but you're still able to use this data in mapping and counting and all of that. And obviously you can take behavior, right? But the person like the system. And I found it so well, and it runs on a server you can buy. It's a little bit more expensive, right? But you can easily buy it, right? But it's not a solution which needs to have like 5 computers to analyze, and it's in real time. It's so there's something what really. On the problem side, I would not be able to tell. I mean, there were interesting problems like we have obviously also in the aviation industry, right? So. But maybe I can tell you some interesting results, and from the retail, from some some years ago, we built next best engine. You know what the next best engine is for car manufacturer. So anytime you go on a car manufacturer site, and you can configure it as your car. It takes about 40 minutes to configure it in your car. And most of those people who are able to afford those cars do not have 40 minutes to configure those cars. So they asked us to do kind of a pre-configured car, based on where you're located and whatever they know about interest and so on and so on and so on. And one of our data scientists who was very curious about things, and he was able to identify a feature, and he would think about features, like name of the company and whatever, what drives the car you configure. And one of the features in this case was t-shirt size. So he took all the catch data and kind of was able to identify what kind of size this person looks for, M, L, S, XL, whatever. And was able to identify negative linear relationship between large t-shirt size and small car. We have no idea why.
All kinds of speculation can be drawn from that.
Exactly. I mean, we have data centers.
So what does it say about big trucks?
I don't know. That's what this is what research. This is what science have to figure out why this is happening. Right? We just see that this is happening. Right? This is an interesting parameter. This is my rules where the findings are. Yeah.
Very, very cool. To add to that, similar, not similar, but a similar finding is we were asked for a major mall franchise to see if they could use the security cameras, analyze the traffic of the mall, and see who just drive insights. And they asked us, ideally, could you tell us how much they're going to spend? And we couldn't tell you exactly how much one's going to spend, but we did find out that a person's Gantt, or the way they walk, is a business driver for figuring out whether they're going to spend money or not.
Yeah.
So I guess it's how you carry in confidence. We found that out as well. And Gabby, you see tons of solutions. You have 50,000 members in DSS. I don't know if anything surprises you at this point, but is there anything that pops out for you in terms of problems that people are trying to solve or a solution that has been introduced?
Yes. So I think one of the problems, and actually, because we had an event earlier today for a client, is something that always comes back to, and it's finding like the accuracy in data and things like that are always being uploaded.
Yeah.
No matter who it is that's giving a presentation, that is always a point that's put forward. So obviously on our side, it's trying to find if there's a product or something new, something that's popping up that we're able to put in front of these folks so that they're able to then obviously take that, utilize it, and then move forward with it. So that's probably the most common problem we see. Solutions, it's always varying. There's nothing. Yeah.
Our own University of Miami is working on a pretty cool project that relates to yours, actually. I'll trade notes with you after the conversations. But they wanted to see if they could use microphones on smart devices, like phones, to figure out whether you have COVID or not. And so they started working backwards on how to solve that problem. So the white paper came out. We assisted advisory in terms of the approach. And what they're ultimately going to start working on is they're making a breathalyzer device, which has 3 different mics in it, so that you can get redundancy and a little bit different vectors on the sound. And then they're putting a specialty, how they do the fast testing now. It's basically, as I'm learning, it's a membrane that reacts to the bacteria and that changes color. That's how you know whether you have COVID or not. And this could be used for the flu, cold, strep throat, whatever. So they're going to put that inside a breathalyzer so people breathe, and then they'll get the results, whether it's positive or negative. The beauty about that is that they generate labeled data, which is what we need. And with enough labeled data and with the recorded sounds, we can start to figure out whether you have COVID or not just based on your breath. And that was probably a standout problem and solution that I was like, this is going to be awesome. I can't wait to see this in production. But they still have to get past FCC or whatever the approval process is before they can put that out for testing. But that's a super interesting kind of use case. And so, by the way, I'm reading off my phone because I'm looking at the questions here. Before I read these questions, any questions here? Any thoughts? Any ideas? All good so far? Awesome. So I'll probably do 2 more questions, and then we'll start rounding out. But the next question would be, in terms of talking to individuals or business leaders or those that understand roughly that AI is valuable, but they don't know how to start or how to start to invest into it. And I'm talking from an organizational perspective. You have a business leader, director of innovation, but he doesn't know how to start this process on AI. What would be the kind of the first initial steps that you would ask them to say, maybe this is what you should start first before you start adopting certain implementations? I'll start with you, Ken.
I think it's showing them the success behind it, especially if it's someone that's kind of like yo-yoing back and forth as to why. They need to know, obviously, what it's going to do for them. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, if somebody's going to spend something or money on something, whether it's a product, a person doing a role, whatever it is, they need to know it's going to be valuable and they're going to see a good return on that. So I think that's something we see a lot, especially working with senior level folks, especially on the product side for bringing those in, is, you know, what is that return going to actually be? And so it's making sure that's at the forefront of their mind. And to echo like the earlier points, excuse me, of what the future will look like. It's, hey, this is how it's going to progress. This is what you need to do. Go ahead and try to get at the front of it so you're already prepared for things that are coming instead of, you know, these automated solutions coming in and just completely taking over with it.
Got it. And I imagine with you guys already have a very technical conversation with your clients, so they have a better understanding, or do you find it to be also sometimes challenging to explain the values of why we would use this?
I think it depends on whom you speak, right? So it's if you're on the dealer, they mostly have a good understanding of what's like, how to combine the dots. But here you go straight away to technology, APIs, data pipelines, you know, whatever they are. If it is a business ROI,
The first.
is
How much?
Parameter,
What do I get for it?
exactly. I made the experience. You need to visualize it. I'm not talking about dashboard. I'm talking about prototypes, and whether or not that is a real model behind it, or whether you're trained it on catch data. That's not really it. People need to create something, an interface, create an upstream, and see what happens. Everybody has understanding for a prediction, but seeing it in action is a complete different experience for business people. So my recommendation in almost all projects which start on the business side is to go with the concept and build a prototype. So at the end, you need to have a prototype. And we see much more conversion with the prototype.
Like a proof of concept to show the value, the work, and then
Exactly. But do not show them your Jupyter. and you know, you're loud, but I see this quite often. Show them something what they understand. This button, we can go back to the right? You know, 3 buttons, right? You can understand this easily. Right? So that's a goal.
Awesome.
That's my experience.
And as kind of a final question, and of course relates to technology, and you touched upon it a little bit when you talked about ghosting and computer vision. You know, a big aspect and an important discussion as it relates to AI in general is ethics, morality, and privacy. And so you gave a wonderful example about how some solutions are coming out now and kind of ghosting people in the video so that they can kind of keep their anonymity, but they can still do analysis to figure out capacity and that sort of thing. Is there any areas that you feel like need to be talked about a little bit more or brought to the forefront of discussions for both business leaders and technical leaders to consider when it comes to either morality, ethics, or privacy?
Do you want to start me first? I certainly would like, I can. We have NDAs with most of our clients. What I never accept in any time we receive data, what I never accept from, doesn't matter who is the client, is any data where I have names, addresses, and all that. Because I don't need. Sometimes I need a zip code, right? But I don't need to have a name, race, or whatever. Right? Certainly gender, yes, but we receive so often Excel sheets with complete access. I said, no, delete them, not interested. So what we do is we just say, hey, just cut them off, not interested. Right? We are fine with an unique identifier from this client, and we work with that. But we don't need to know where this person was. What we also recommend to in all our project is collect and save or store only the data you need. You train the model, figured out what your parameters are, drop everything else. I know it's difficult for data scientists. I understand. Drop that. No data. If you do not have any data stored, then no breach can hurt you or the customer or the person who is in the data. And this is our most valuable asset. If this person is hurt by whatever they will figure out, then we lose people's trust in what we do. And I like what I do, and I like the community. I like the whole area. I do not like the idea of losing things. Right? So be respectful of the data. Right? It's personal data. It may be yours. It may be the data of your parents, of your children, or whoever you work with. So this is somebody's data, and being respectful to that is something what we all need to do. I think.
Completely agree. Gary, what's your take?
It's the same. I mean, obviously on, the growth side of things, it's all about sharing personal data. But then you go on the opposite side, and it's very funny being in this field because obviously we work with a lot of folks that very much want to keep those things secure and private. So to echo your earlier point about like GDPR and things like that, the amount of consent and everything that you have to go through is almost mind-boggling sometimes in the middle of the night. But at the end of the day, obviously it's worth it because when we take that back at the end of the day, it's exactly that. Like, only keep what you need. You do not need the extra. Do not store that. Get rid of it. So it's very much to that point of privacy.
There's nothing bad of sharing, right? There's nothing bad to have this information on whatever platform. The point is to use only what you really need. And if you figured out that your model works with these 25 features, then work with it, right? Drop all the other 50 or whatever. And if there is no reason to include a particular point, then do not store it. That's kind of and there are ways how you can manipulate data and make them not trackable, right? Anonymity, without changing your results. So there are ways now, right? Of course, you need to invest some more time, and you of course need to convince your client on investing some more money. But the benefits of them, and there are good examples in the present this year and last year, big companies who lost it. So if you would follow an advice of security consultants, or consultants who, or people who work with data in that format, even if they hack you, you're going to have any valuable data in there. So go ahead.
Absolutely. One piece of color I would add there is that when you are a part of a data science group, you just want to work with that data to derive insights out of it. But if you're working in conjunction with other IT groups, they're incentivized to log as much information as possible because they're supporting IoT devices or sensors out in the field, and that information may be helpful, but they're responsible for that data set. And the data science team is just focusing on driving insights out of it. So the discussion we're having here, I think we're in agreement. Data science team, if you don't need it, you can dump it. You always get it later, but you can get it from Spawn or the Genesis point, and the Genesis point can kind of manage it from that perspective. Does that make sense? Sure. Awesome. So with that said, and to give some time for networking and drinks and food, we want to thank everyone for their time here today. Thank you guys for joining us and bringing the insights. Super awesome prototype that you showed us today. Hang around for those of you here, food, drinks, awesome spirits in the back. Careful with the peanut butter one, and pizza as well. And then for those online, thank you for guys being here. We're going to be sharing all the presentations so that you can reach out to all the speakers and also sign up for the events that are coming up. So that's it. Thank you guys and have a great night.
Thank you.
And we also have our cohort starting on December 1st. So anybody who came to the event tonight gets $1,500 off the cohort if you guys sign up. So if you are interested, please come talk to me before you leave so I can take your emails and I can send you the discount code for when you sign up on the website.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thank you.
Yes.
Eat food.
What's your name?
Carlos.
And your last name?
It's ARAQUE.
ARAQUE.
89 at Gmail.
Awesome. You're interested in the December cohort?
Yes.
Awesome. It's in partnership with Strata. So Charles, he's really awesome. You see a lot of him. He was the host, the tall guy right there.
Okay.
Yes, we do it with his company, so we'll see plenty of him. Really good program.
Okay. And when's the deadline, do you know?
As long as you get to the event, you sign up for the